Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on any purchase over $10. See the description below for details. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to this special edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. Today we're going to look at 18 cards that could get a little bit better if the London Mulligan is officially adopted. Now, this is part of our Picks of the Month series. This is the one for February. A quick reminder about this series, it does go out to the gold patrons first. By the time you see this video on YouTube, it might be about 24 or 48 hours later. Prices could have shifted a little bit, but I'm not anticipating any huge changes for the cards we're talking about today for the most part. Without any further ado, let's get into it. Before we get to the cards though, some of you might be wondering, what is the London Mulligan? In the upcoming Mythic Championship in London, they are going to test a new Mulligan rule. And this is a little more of a forgiving Mulligan. They wanted to try it out in a more powerful format, and within this tournament, the rounds are going to be draft and modern, as opposed to what we just saw, which was draft and standard, so it makes sense to try it out here. Now, the way it works is if I decide to take a Mulligan instead of drawing only 6 cards and then scrying, I'm going to still draw 7 cards. Instead of scrying, though, I'm going to take one of those 7 cards and put it to the bottom of my deck. If I decide to take a second Mulligan, then I'll still draw 7 cards, but now 2 cards will go to the bottom of my library, so on and so forth. It is giving you access to more information, which means you can make better decisions, and yeah, actually it is more powerful. Ultimately, once that tournament is over, Wizards is going to have to look at the data, look at the feedback, and decide if they want to turn our regular Mulligan rule into that Mulligan rule going forward. I kind of think there's a good chance that's going to happen. So the cards we're going to look at today are all cards that do something if they're in your hand at the beginning of the game, and because of that, the London Mulligan could make them better. A lot of these cards did tick up a little bit already when they made the announcement. However, long term, these could definitely hold more value. Just as a side note, they didn't say anything about multiplayer with this Mulligan. I would assume you would still get the free Mulligan like you do today, but since there are no multiplayer rounds in this event, they didn't really discuss it. Okay, we're going to begin with a cycle of cards, and those are the Chancellors from New Phyrexia. Here's your first one. Chancellor of the Annex at $5.19. This is probably the best of the cycle and the most expensive because it does see Legacy play. You'll find this in Legacy Reanimator builds sometimes. Certain builds will like this card and even run up to 4 of them. Manaless Dredge will also run this out of the sideboard on occasion. Just to be able to hold your opponent back for a turn is actually pretty interesting. And the problem with the Chancellors basically is the casting cost. So if you can get around that with a deck like Reanimator, this one's actually not that bad considering not only the ability it has, but also it's a 5/6 flyer. So this is one that could potentially gain value if we do move towards the London Mulligan. Chancellor of the Spires at 49 cents. Okay, this one's really cheap, but I do want to make this very clear. This video is not about trying to go out there and buy all these cards, as many as you can, and try to flip them or something, because you're not going to make money off that. That's not what this is about. This video is really about maybe you had some of these cards on your want list and you've been putting it off. Well, here's a reminder that they could be going up in value at least a little bit because of this upcoming potential rule change. Now, the rule might not change, number one. Secondly, there's a lot of these cards out there in the marketplace. All the cards we're talking about today are modern cards. They could be reprinted at any time. This is not a way to get rich. This is just letting you know that you might want to pick up some of these cards sooner than later. Now, this one actually could be a decent commander card in the future. Milling somebody, especially considering the cost of this card, isn't going to fit easily into most modern decks. Even a modern mill deck will most likely not need this. However, commander mill decks are becoming more popular with the inclusion of persistent petitioners from Ravnica Allegiance. Chancellor of the Dross, 49 cents. You know, this is a good commander card too. It's a vampire. I want to point that out. It could work really well into a vampire tribal build. Having your opponents lose 3 life isn't all that exciting, but notice it says, then you gain life equal to the life lost this way. If there's a lot of people at that table, that could be a big life gain for you. And at the end of the day, this is still a 6/6 flying lifelink vampire. Not something that's very good, most likely in a 1v1 situation, but I would play this in commander vampire builds for sure. Chancellor of the Forest. Do you like goblins? Do you like a lot of little tokens? Well, this is going to be a good commander card for you then if you're in red. 107, another cheap pickup. Chancellor the Tangle at 58 cents. I have seen people try to work this into competitive builds and never really sustained. Not as good of a commander card as some of the ones we just looked at, but it's okay. You could get a little bit of a mana push at the beginning, and it is still a 6/7 body with vigilance and reach, which isn't nothing. Next, we're going to talk about some ley lines, and these cards are actually pretty sweet. They all cost 4 mana, 2 uncolored, 2 colorless. There was a cycle of these in Guild Pact, and then we got some additional ones in Magic 2011. And if you have these in your opening hands, you can actually put them into play for free. This one, Leyline of the Meek, $2.39. Creature tokens get +1/+1. There is some potential down the road for something like this to see play in Modern if there really was a good token deck out there, and who knows what the future holds as more cards enter that format. But even if that never happens, this is still a very good commander card if you care about tokens. If you have a deck like Banned Tokens, for example, this is awesome. Okay, here's a more well-known one. Leyline of Sanctity, Magic 2011, $20.89. Modern Masters 2015, $21.33. This sees play in Modern and Legacy sideboards. It's good against Burn, Storm, and even Mill. Leyline of Anticipation, $17.99. Occasionally, this sees a little vintage play in Paradoxical Outcome decks. However, this is more of a commander card as well. In the last year or so, especially in 1v1 Commander, we've seen more of these mono blue decks that are trying to choke off your opponent's resources while trying to make your resources more efficient. This is perfect for those kind of builds. Line of Singularity, $2.90. This is another card that's a little niche, but if you do have a Commander deck that cares about Legendary, this would be good there. Okay, this one needs no introduction. Leyline of the Void, Magic 2011, $45.59, Guild Pact 51.62. This card has been super hot recently because it's a great sideboard card in not only Modern but also Legacy and Vintage. Some people thought it would cool off when KCI got banned not too long ago. Maybe it cooled down for about a week, but then it just kept going up because it's such an important answer to a lot of big decks. Things like Reanimator, the Phoenix decks, which are super hot right now, Dredge, and others. Leyline of Lightning, 35 cents. Okay, this one is very underwhelming compared to many of the other ley lines. The problem with this one is it's just simply not doing enough. In Modern, it's too slow in like a burn deck or something like that. Commander, it's just underwhelming because people have higher life totals and such. It's just not that impactful. It's cheap, I'll give it that. Leyline of Punishment, $2.51. There was a time when the Modern life gain decks were more of a threat than they are today. If they were to make a comeback at some point, who knows, maybe you'd want this in your sideboard. But if you're a Commander player and you have a friend that likes that life gain strategy, this might be good to have in your collection. Line of Lifeforce, $2.46. I think there's good value here. I mean, down the road, I wouldn't be shocked to see this show up in a Modern build, but beyond that, everybody's trying to build around Nikki of the old ways right now in Commander. This card is perfect in that deck. Little surprised this one hasn't gone up more recently. Leyline of Vitality, $1.09. This is good in certain builds in Commander. Maybe you care about life gain. Maybe you're going to have a lot of creatures coming into play, like that Banned Tokens deck again. Or maybe you just care about toughness. Perhaps your commander is Doran the Siege Tower, for example. A lot of different reasons to use this card. This is a solid pickup at only about $1. Okay, our last few cards do not fit into a cycle. The first one is Providence, 29 cents. Okay, this one's kind of a dud too. Yeah, it's a little too expensive to see play in, say, Modern or something like that. And this is really awkward for Commander because you don't want your starting life total to go down to 26 on your first upkeep unless you have some kind of crazy trick you're trying to pull off. Maybe there's one deck somewhere that wants to do that, but for the most part, I don't see a lot of people wanting this card. Sphinx of Foresight, finally a standard card here at 87 cents. There was a lot of expectations around this card when it was previewed, and they never really panned out. Now, this could be a card that gets better after rotation, that's very possible, but maybe even before that if the London Mulligan rule actually gets adopted. Serum Powder. Okay, this one is another one you're probably familiar with. Iconic Masters, $1.49. Darksteel, $2.38. This sees play in Vintage Dredge as well as colorless Eldrazi decks in Modern. Now, they haven't given us the official rules wording yet as to how the new Mulligan would work, so this card could interact in different ways depending on how it is actually documented, so keep that in mind. And this card was always good because it has that ability, but you can do this in addition to taking a Mulligan. It does give you some options. Gemstone Caverns, $23.99, and this card has become popular in Modern over the last probably 6 to 8 months or so, and it fell into a number of different builds, and you'll see this actually show up in a lot of Modern decks now, but one of the more popular ones is colorless Eldrazi. So this is a card that does have the ability to go up in value more, assuming there's not a reprint coming around the corner or anything like that. The Mulligan rule could push it even further. Okay, with that being said, that is our special edition of the Market Watch for today. And hopefully this gives you at least a little bit of a heads up, something to consider if in fact that rule does change in the future. Time will tell. We don't know right now. Until next time though, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon and have a great day.